My brother David was born 4 minutes before me, but he never let me forget those 4 minutes for the rest of our lives. I'm the older brother, he would say whenever we disagreed about anything, from which TV show to watch to who got the bigger piece of birthday cake. I have seniority. We were identical twins, but anyone who knew us could tell us apart instantly. David was the charmer, quick with a joke, easy with a smile, the one who could talk his way out of trouble as smoothly as he talked his way into it. I was the responsible one, the planner, the twin who did homework on time and remembered to feed the dog and always had a backup plan. Our parents used to joke that God had split one perfect child into two complementary halves. David got the charisma, and I got the conscience. David got the natural talent, and I got the work ethic. David got the dreams, and I got the practical skills to make them happen. It worked perfectly until we turned 35, and David's dreams finally destroyed everything we had built together. The restaurant was David's idea, but it was my money that made it possible. Rossetti's, named after our Italian grandmother who had taught us both to cook in her cramped Brooklyn kitchen, was supposed to be our legacy, the culmination of everything we had learned and dreamed about since we were kids, standing on phone books to reach the stove. David was the chef, naturally. He had attended culinary school in Paris and worked in Michelin-starred kitchens across Europe, collecting techniques and flavors like other people collected postcards. He could make magic happen with simple ingredients. Turn a basic tomato sauce into something that made customers close their eyes and sigh with pleasure. I was the business manager. I had an MBA and 15 years of experience in restaurant consulting. I understood profit margins and labor costs and inventory management. I knew how to read a lease agreement and negotiate with suppliers and handle the 1,000 small details that could make or break a restaurant. More importantly, I had the $200,000 inheritance from our grandmother's estate. David's half had disappeared within 6 months of her death, spent on a vintage motorcycle, a trip to Japan, and what he vaguely described as investments in my culinary education. My half had been carefully invested and had grown to almost $300,000 by the time we decided to open Rossetti's. We'll be partners, David said the night we signed the lease on a perfect corner spot in Brooklyn Heights. 50-50, just like we've always been. I trusted him completely because he was my twin, my other half, my partner in everything since we had shared space in our mother's womb. The idea that David might betray me was as impossible to imagine as the idea that I might betray myself. For the first year, everything went exactly as we had planned. Rossetti's became the neighborhood gym we had dreamed it could be. Busy but not overwhelmed, profitable but still personal. David created a menu that changed with the seasons, featuring dishes that honored our grandmother's recipes while showcasing his own innovation. I managed the front of house, the finances, and the constant juggling act of running a small business. We worked 16-hour days and loved every minute of it. David would emerge from the kitchen during quiet moments to chat with regular customers, charming them with stories about the inspiration behind each dish. I would handle the difficult customers, the supplier negotiations, the staff scheduling that kept everything running smoothly. "Look at us," David said one evening as we sat at the bar after closing, sharing a bottle of wine and counting the day's receipts. Grandma would be so proud. I felt proud too. Proud of what we had built, proud of how well we worked together, proud of the way David had channeled his charisma into something productive and lasting. For the first time in our lives, it felt like we were both living up to our full potential. The restaurant became our whole world. We had no time for dating, no energy for hobbies, no life outside of Rossetti's. But it didn't matter because we were building something together, something that would outlast us both. I should have paid more attention to David's increasing interest in the financial side of the business. He started asking questions about our profit margins, our cash flow, our business accounts. He wanted to understand the whole picture, he said. He was thinking about expanding, maybe opening a second location. I was thrilled that he was taking such an active interest in the business aspects of our partnership. I showed him our books, explained our financial systems, even gave him access to our business accounts so he could see exactly how well we were doing. It was the biggest mistake of my life. The first sign of trouble came on a Tuesday morning in March. almost exactly 2 years after we had opened. I arrived at the restaurant early, as I always did, to prep for the lunch service and handle administrative tasks. When I tried to access our main business account to pay our produce supplier, I discovered that it had been cleaned out, $47,000 gone overnight. My first thought was that we had been robbed, that someone had somehow gained access to our account information. I called the bank immediately, my hands shaking as I explained the situation to a customer service representative who seemed far too calm for what felt like a catastrophe. The withdrawal was made using authorized access credentials, she told me. 2 separate transactions, both made yesterday evening after business hours through our online banking system. I knew our online banking credentials by heart. I had set up the account myself and changed the password regularly. But there was only one other person who had access to that information, David. When I confronted him an hour later, he was in the kitchen prepping vegetables for the lunch service, humming under his breath the way he always did when he was focused on knife work. He looked up when I entered, and his smile faltered when he saw my face. "We need to talk," I said. "Now." He followed me to the small office we shared behind the kitchen, and I showed him the bank statements on my laptop screen. For a moment, his face was completely blank, as if he were trying to process information that didn't make sense. Then something shifted in his expression, and I saw a look I had never seen before. Calculating, defensive, almost hostile. "I can explain," he said. "Explain what?" "Explain how our business account got emptied without my knowledge. Explain where $47,000 went." David sat down heavily in the chair across from my desk. "I had an opportunity," he said. "A chance to invest in something big, something that could change everything for us." "What kind of opportunity?" "A friend of mine from culinary school, Marcus, he's opening a high-end catering company. Exclusive events, celebrity clients, the kind of contracts that could set us up for life. He needed investors, and I thought, you thought you'd steal money from our business to invest in someone else's company. I didn't steal anything. It's my money too. We're partners. Partners discuss major financial decisions with each other. Partners don't empty business accounts without consultation. Partners don't risk their restaurant's ability to pay suppliers and staff." David's face flushed red. "You're always so cautious, so worried about every penny. This was a chance to think big, to really grow our business." Our business was already growing. We were profitable. We were building a reputation. We were doing exactly what we planned to do. "We were playing it safe," David shot back. "We were thinking small. Marcus's company could have led to catering contracts worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. We could have opened multiple locations, maybe franchised the concept. And what if Marcus's company failed? What if your investment disappeared completely?" David was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, in a voice so low I could barely hear him, "It already did." The full scope of David's betrayal unfolded over the following weeks like a slow-motion disaster. The $47,000 was just the beginning. Over the course of 6 months, he had systematically diverted money from our business accounts into various investment opportunities, most of which had turned out to be scams or poorly conceived ventures that collapsed within weeks. He had forged my signature on loan applications, using the restaurant as collateral to borrow money that he then lost in a series of increasingly desperate attempts to recoup his losses. He had sold our expensive kitchen equipment and replaced it with cheaper alternatives, pocketing the difference. He had even borrowed money from several of our regular customers, promising them special catering services that he never intended to deliver. In total, David had stolen or lost nearly $150,000 of our money and put us $200,000 in debt to creditors who were now demanding immediate payment. "I was trying to fix things," he kept saying as the full extent of the damage became clear. "I was trying to make back the money before you found out. I thought I could handle it." But the worst part wasn't the money. The worst part was discovering that my twin brother, the person I had trusted more than anyone else in the world, had been lying to me for months. Every day for 6 months, he had looked me in the eye and pretended everything was normal while he systematically destroyed everything we had built together. "Why?" I asked him the day we met with our lawyer to discuss bankruptcy proceedings. "We were successful. We were happy. Why did you risk all of that?" David stared at his hands for a long time before answering. Because I was jealous, he said finally. You were always the smart one, the responsible one, the one who had his life together. This restaurant was supposed to be my chance to prove that I could be successful too, that I could build something lasting. But every day, I watched you handle all the business decisions, all the important stuff, and I felt like I was just the cook. Like you were the real owner, and I was just an employee. You were my partner. We built this together. No, he said, shaking his head. You built this. You had the money, you understood the business, you made all the decisions that mattered. I just cooked the food. And I wanted more than that. I wanted to be the one with the big ideas, the one who took the risks, the one who could say I did this. So you destroyed it instead. I didn't mean to destroy it. I meant to save it, to make it bigger and better and more successful. I wanted to surprise you with how well I could handle the business side of things. But intentions don't pay debts or restore trust or undo the damage caused by months of deception. Rossetti's closed 3 weeks later, and we lost everything. The restaurant, our reputation, our relationship, and the dream we had shared since childhood. The legal proceedings took months to resolve. David was charged with embezzlement and fraud, though he ultimately received a suspended sentence and community service in exchange for his cooperation in tracking down the money he had lost. Most of it was gone forever, invested in companies that had never existed or schemes that had collapsed before they began. I tried to salvage what I could from the wreckage of our business, but the damage was too extensive. The restaurant space went to new owners who painted over our carefully chosen colors and replaced our custom-made bar with something generic and soulless. Our loyal customers scattered to other neighborhood restaurants. Our staff found jobs elsewhere. The hardest part was losing David himself, not just as a business partner, but as a brother, as the person who had been my closest companion for 35 years. The betrayal had poisoned everything we had shared, turning our childhood memories into evidence of his lifelong resentment and my lifelong naivety. I'm sorry, he said the day the restaurant officially closed, standing in the empty dining room where we had shared so many happy moments with customers who felt like extended family. I'm sorry I ruined everything. I wanted to forgive him. Part of me still wants to forgive him. But forgiveness requires trust, and trust was the one thing David had destroyed completely. I know you are, I told him, but sorry doesn't bring back what we lost. It's been 5 years since Rossetti's closed. I work as a restaurant consultant again, helping other people build the dreams that David and I failed to protect. I'm good at my job, maybe better than I was before, because I understand now how quickly things can go wrong, how important it is to have systems and safeguards and checks and balances. David moved to California, where he works as a line cook in someone else's kitchen. We exchange Christmas cards and birthday texts, maintaining the polite distance of relatives who share DNA but no longer share trust. Sometimes I wonder if we could rebuild our relationship, if enough time and distance could heal the wounds he created. But then I remember the look on his face when I discovered what he had done. Not guilt or remorse, but anger that he had been caught. I remember the months of lies, the forged signatures, the casual way he had dismantled everything we had worked for while pretending to be my partner and friend. Some betrayals are too complete to overcome, even when they come from someone you love. Especially when they come from someone you love. I still cook sometimes, late at night in my small apartment kitchen, making the simple pasta dishes our grandmother taught us when we were boys. But I never make enough for two anymore. And I never hum while I work. Those involved